Charlie is one of my favorite people. He is the smartest man I know in politics. Love the guy.
There were also students who were not happy that Charlie Kirk was on their campus.
A little bit scared and disgusted. Yeah.
It was clearly not just UVU students. There were a lot of people who were from the broader community who were there for Charlie Kirk.
It was supposed to be routine. A stop on a tour. A gathering of students, activists, observers. The kind of place where people argue with words, not weapons. I was there to watch. To listen. To study how young people form political identities, how ideas land, how certain figures draw devotion or disgust, especially among young men trying to define who they are in a fractured world. The plan was simple. Focus on the crowd. Their reactions. Their energy. The conversations happening in the margins. Not the speaker himself. That mattered to me. Because moments like this aren't really about the person at the microphone. They're about everyone standing within earshot. I remember thinking maybe there would be shouting. A shove. A heated exchange. The kind of tension that simmers at college events and usually burns itself out. Gun violence never crossed my mind. The speaker, Charlie, was someone I respected. One of the sharpest political minds I knew. Admired, yes. But controversial. Some students were visibly uncomfortable. Others were openly angry. A few looked scared just being there. And it wasn't only students. People from the surrounding community showed up. Older adults. Families. Local officials. People who wanted to see it for themselves instead of through a screen. There was no clear media credentialing. No press pen. No designated safe space. I worked my way forward anyway, staying near the north side where I knew the speaker would sit. I tried to be invisible. That's the paradox of journalism. You have to be present without becoming part of the story. Alert without being conspicuous. Close enough to see everything, far enough to stay safe. The amphitheater felt wrong. Too steep. Too crowded. Terraces stacked with bodies, shoulder to shoulder. It was the kind of place where a stumble could become a stampede. Watching it unfold in person was nothing like watching clips online. It felt like a sporting event. The anticipation. The roar and counter-roar. The charged mix of excitement and hostility. Behind the tent I noticed security. Some uniformed. Some in plain clothes. They weren't obvious. They moved quietly, adjusting positions, scanning faces. That should have been reassuring. Instead, it made the air heavier. Then the speaker walked out. Not tense. Not guarded. He acknowledged the crowd like a performer stepping onto a stage. Almost playful. A gesture that said, "I see you," to supporters and critics alike. He sat down. The line filled. And he said they'd be there for hours. Everything felt normal. Loud. Charged. But normal. And then, a sharp sound cut through the air. For half a second, nobody understood it. Your brain always looks for the safest explanation first. A firecracker. A dropped object. Anything but the truth. The crowd didn't wait for clarity. They turned instantly. Some people dropped where they stood. Others ran. Chaos erupted in seconds. Faces that had been curious or defiant turned into pure terror. People near the railings spun and fled. Some ducked. Some crawled. Some screamed. Some froze, trapped between disbelief and fear. Within moments, the packed terraces were empty. Bags lay abandoned. Shoes. Phones. A walker sat alone. A wheelchair left behind. Silent proof of how fast normal life collapses. Journalistic instinct kicked in. Cameras stayed up. Eyes scanned everything. But one question looped in my head, louder than the screams. Is this over, or is it just beginning? Security shouted instructions. Plainclothes officers moved through the chaos, some with weapons drawn. That added another layer of fear. In that moment you couldn't tell who was protecting you, and who might still be a threat. Nobody knew if more shots were coming. If the shooter was still there. If this was an isolated moment or the start of something worse. Then, almost as suddenly as it began, it stopped. About 60 seconds. An eternity compressed into a minute. The speaker was gone. Officers started clearing the area, though not smoothly. People were scattered. Confused. Stunned. The grassy terrace where hundreds had stood was now mostly empty. What remained were belongings and shock. The cell network collapsed. Too many people trying to call loved ones. Too many texts going out at once. Rumors moved faster than truth ever could. Someone said the shooter had been caught. That was wrong. First responders later said that misinformation made everything worse. People hesitated to evacuate because they thought the danger had passed. Law enforcement went room by room, sweeping the campus. Journalists scrambled to verify information while pushing updates out in real time. Accuracy versus urgency. Survival versus duty. Reports conflicted. One source said the speaker was critically injured. Another said he was dead. Both would turn out to be false, but in that moment uncertainty ruled everything. When violence erupts, the mind doesn't process events cleanly. It fragments. It jumps between facts, fears, and instincts. Being present at that kind of violence changes you. It isn't just the sound of the gunshot. It's the screaming afterward. The way faces look when reality breaks through denial. The way your brain tries to rationalize what just happened because accepting it feels unbearable. For the young people there, this wasn't theoretical. This wasn't something they watched on the news. It was real. They grew up on lockdown drills, active shooter simulations, instructions on where to hide, how to barricade, how to survive. But drills don't replicate chaos. They don't replicate the sound of panic echoing off concrete, or the sight of adults running without direction, or the moment you realize no one is fully in control. Trauma doesn't announce itself. It embeds. You see it in the blank stares, in trembling hands, in conversations that trail off and never finish. It changes how public spaces feel, how political events feel, how young people engage with ideas and with each other. That day didn't just disrupt a campus. It rewired memories. For journalists, it changed the calculus of coverage. How close is too close? How much risk is acceptable? How do you keep recording when your body wants to run? For students, it changed how safety is understood. Not as policy, not as procedure, but as something fragile. In moments like that, ideology disappears. Partisanship dissolves. What matters is survival. Clarity. Humanity. That's why stories like this demand restraint. Because the world reacts faster than it reflects. And people deserve understanding more than noise. When the adrenaline fades, what remains is quieter. The realization that fear spreads faster than facts. That rumors can be as dangerous as bullets. That truth takes time and patience to surface. That sound lasted seconds. Its impact will last years. It will shape how a generation approaches public life. How they weigh participation against risk. How they carry invisible scars into adulthood. And for those who witnessed it, there is no clean ending. Only memories. The knowledge that ordinary days can fracture without warning. And the responsibility to witness carefully, record responsibly, and tell the story without turning pain into spectacle. Because understanding is harder than outrage. And far more necessary. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. No gloss. No sugarcoat. Just raw reality.